I'm going to give you an honest review of my build after having owned it for 2 years. Starting with a little walk around, we have 3 Crossfire XS8Ks on 144 amp hours of Lishan LTO lithium, a bunch of SMD goodies. Here on the side for the front stage, we have 2 B2 Audio 1200.4s, ran through an Alpine DSP. We have an LAF panel here for all the subwiring. We have some relays and more SMD goodies happening down here. Going inside, here at the doors, we have Crossfire M8 8-inch mids in the doors. In the pillars, we have B2 Audio 3-inch full range speakers, as well as right there in the dash. And then we also have the B2 Audio neodymium magnet super tweets, and that is on both sides. Ran through a Kenwood KMM X705 LAF bass knob, LAF head unit case, all the switches down there. And looking back in the back, we have the 6 B2 Audio XMV315s, carbon cone options, sitting in a 1.5:1 6th order, designed by Drew Jones, built by yours truly. Try and zoom back there. You see the ports back there. 2 8-inch arrow ports. Now let's go through each of the components and talk about my true feelings on each part of the build. We have the 3 Crossfire XS8Ks. It's probably one of the very first things in my build that I knew I wanted to have. They are clean, up to about 12,200 watts. Certain amplifiers that, in my opinion, have earned the OG stamp. One of them being Crossfire 8Ks, DC 7.5K, DC 9K, Sundown SCV 7500, that I would give the OG stamp of approval. So when this build was starting out, I knew I wanted to start with these. And it's going to be really hard to change my mind to put anything else in here, because it is clamping 36,000 watts clean. I'm backed off, running about 28 to 30,000 watts with 0 issues. When I started this build, I knew that I was going to be crammed for space. Crammed for space and trying to add a lot of power makes it very difficult when you're trying to figure out your battery option. So I knew I was going lithium, and then when it comes to lithium, you have LTO, LiFePO, and your pouches. And I knew I did not want to put a pouch in here, and I knew that the LiFePO batteries were not going to do what I needed them to do. So I decided to go with LTO, and then you're talking Yinlong, Lishan, and a few others. But the C rating and the performance out of these Lishan cells have been phenomenal. This is what controls the front stage. When you start running a bunch of speakers, you need a bunch of amplifiers to power those speakers. In order to separate all those speakers from doors, dash, pillars, center consoles, kick panel, whatever it is you're running, you need a way to separate all those channels to tell your amplifiers what to do. And that's where a DSP comes into play. There's a bunch of good DSPs out there between JL Audio, Tweaks, Dayton Audio, DS18. There's a bunch. I just happen to be an Alpine Audio fanboy and have been very happy with that one. It's done exactly what I need to do, and that's feed signal to these B2 Audio amps. Before this build was known as a B2 Audio build, I had matching Crossfire front stage amps to go along with the amps in the back. The Crossfire amps were better. These have a smaller footprint and they put out more power, but they have signal noise that I cannot get rid of. Now in a big SPL build like this, it gets drowned out. You can't hear it once you start to turn the volume up. But if you were the person building this rig and you took out an amplifier and put these ones in, did all the testing, checked all the RCAs, checked all your grounds, did this, did that, there is a difference. So as much as I like these B2 Audio amps because they're small footprint and I can cram a lot of power on the side of this vehicle, they do not sound as good as what was in here. So it is a trade-off, but room for improvement. The Crossfire M8, I think that's what they are, also phenomenal speaker. They sound great, especially on that 80 hertz to 500 hertz side. They have a very warm, full sound on the bottom. I had these mid-range speakers sent to me from B2 Audio. Beautiful, good looking speaker. I was super excited when I first got these to run them in the build. I installed them and I immediately had issues. Here's the biggest issue. See these push terminals right here? These push terminals touch the inside of the basket. On the back side, when you push this push terminal down, see, it's getting hung up right there. So when you push it down, it's touching the back side of the basket. So when you get your wire in there and it tries to release, it is still touching the back side of the basket. Now you wouldn't think that would be an issue because it has a black coating on it, but after pushing this up and down a couple times, now you have raw metal there and these ground out. The speakers pop and make all sorts of noise. It's very unfortunate. It's a very, very tiny design flaw. I couldn't run them because I could not get them to stop crackling, popping, and shorting out. So the Crossfires had to go back in the door. All right, that was enough bashing on B2 Audio because I'm running the 3-inch full range B2 Audio speakers in the pillars, the dash, with the B2 Audio Neodymium Super Tweets. They sound amazing. These 3-inch speakers from B2 Audio, as well as these Super Tweets, and then the 3-inch speakers bouncing off the front windshield really brings the front stage up. And I have been very, very happy with the amount of power I have at these and output. So, happy there. Great job, B2 Audio. This is the Kenwood KMM X705. There's not a whole lot for me to say here other than there's not very many single DIN head units being made anymore that are of higher quality, that have a lot of options built into the unit itself. I originally had an Alpine HD 149 BT in here that I destroyed after one show of giving demos. Now we move on to one part of the build that I have very, very strong opinions on. The B2 Audio XMV315s, in my opinion, are some of the best subwoofers out there for demoing. These ones in specific are all outfitted with carbon fiber cones and carbon fiber dust caps. And I don't know if you can see that, but right there on top of the motor, it says Audio Italy. When these subwoofers were built, they had a batch of motors that had this special engraving in them, and apparently there wasn't too many of them. But these specific woofers are a 4-inch coil, and they have this custom basket design which gives them a very large spider landing. Not only do they handle a lot of power, but this huge spider landing is a huge deal, in my opinion, on the mechanicals of these woofers. To switch these woofers out with something else would take a very amazing woofer to replace. But my happiness level with these woofers is very hard to beat. There is my full opinion on every aspect of this build after having it for 2 years. Maybe we should sell it.